Hello, everybody. Hello, Shelby. Welcome to SEC
Hi.
Biased. How's everybody doing tonight?
We're here, guys. We're
You
here.
get moved? You have fun?
I got moved. I have
So,
a Halloween themed Christmas tree now.
what was the worst part of your weekend? Moving or Jimbo Fisher's offense?
And the problem is that we were moved enough, like we had already finished moving to be able to watch most of that game. Yikes.
Yeah, it do be like that sometimes. I you're in the group chat. You see how much hell I catch for the shoe game and Dan Mullen gestures and everything, all of this. So, I promise you it's coming from a place of love. But, like I said, it's never fun being the talk of college football for all the wrong reasons. And, unfortunately for you guys, the expectations, I've kind of contended this the whole time, and I know you've had a bit higher expectations than I did for Texas A&M this year. Understandably so. I have higher expectations for Florida than most people. Um, but I felt like this year should have just been viewed as almost a year one type of situation to where, and this is where it gets a little problematic because Jimbo should not be, in a year one situation at this point. But I feel like the influx of talent you guys got in that recruiting class last year. You need some time to let it marinate. This year, 8-4 should be good enough for you guys. I don't think 8-4 with a loss to App State was on the menu though, and
It was not.
let's spend a little bit of time. Bring me up to speed on Aggie land. How's everybody feeling? I mean, I know that we've talked about this a couple times already, but I I think Mississippi State's a good team. I don't think you guys should really hit the panic alarms over that. But the offense is
Atrocious.
this is approaching McElwain and Muschamp levels of offensive ineptitude. And I say this knowing full well that Jimbo might come out this weekend and beat Bama like 45-35 or something.
Because why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's college football. I mean, Mr. Ducati, he's wants the 2007 chaos, so that's a good start for it. Um,
Kansas,
so,
Kansas, Kansas.
have you talked to your children about an undefeated Kansas?
What are you gonna do when Kansas goes undefeated? What are you gonna do?
That there's no Mark Mangino to mess things up at the end of the year this year. Um,
Just man, if Kansas goes undefeated, I might throw a party for them.
you know, Lance Leipold, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but he's at Kansas, right?
Ask the interwebs. I don't know enough about
Yeah, let
Kansas.
me Google that. Yeah, Lance Leipold. He was the North Dakota State head coach for a while. Uh, oh no, I am getting Kansas State and Kansas confused here. So Lance Leipold is Kansas's coach, but he was the Wisconsin Whitewater coach who won like I don't know like 8 straight national championships at D3. And then he jumped from D3 to the University of Buffalo and did pretty well there. And then he went to Kansas. So, he has that Midwest connection. Who am I thinking of? Who's Kansas State's coach? He was the North Dakota State
Isn't
football
it
coach. Chris
something
Kleiman. Chris
other?
Kleiman. Yeah. Um, yeah.
All I
You
know is
know,
Kansas State beat OU and it was beautiful. And then TCU beat the living crap out of OU.
yeah.
Makes Red River slightly less exciting.
The Big 12, they do this every year to where unless Oklahoma or Texas is good enough that they can run away with it, and Oklahoma has been in the past few years, unless one of those two teams is head and shoulders above everybody else, it's just cannibalization. I mean, it's you'll have Oklahoma State or Baylor at 10-2 or 11-1, but their one loss is to a bad Iowa State team or Kansas team or something. So I mean, I think Kansas could pretty easily be like 6 or 7-0 and finish the season like 8-4 or something. I mean,
And they would celebrate.
I can't blame them. I would too if I was a Kansas fan and we win 8-4. I mean, they deserve it.
Can they beat Texas again? That's all I ask for.
I mean, I don't see any reason why they couldn't. They look pretty good. I mean, I personally wouldn't want to play. I would be more concerned about Kansas State than Kansas, but maybe that's just from having actually watched Kansas State play a little bit. Kansas State. Iowa State used to be the El Assico, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with the El Clasico between Barcelona and Real Madrid, but it's a play on that because Iowa and Iowa State are traditionally garbage. But yeah, Kansas State could be interesting this year. But we're not here to talk about Big 12 football. You got me going. You brought up Texas and Kansas, and you got me going. We are nice try, Shelby. You tried your best to distract me from what is going on in College Station. It's not going to work.
Honest to God, there are two groups of people in Aggieland right now. It's either I still believe in Jimbo, everything's going to be okay. Max Johnson got hurt, and he's still not the guy. It'll be Connor Wingman. He's grooming Connor Wingman. Everything's going to be fine, even though he groomed Haynes King, and we saw what happened there. But that's neither here nor there, I guess.
See, Mr. Rollins, I don't know what you're talking about getting soft. See, you guys don't understand up there in Knoxville. You don't understand how this thing plays itself out. What you do is you have to let them get a little bit of hope. You got to let Shelby think that this is going to go in a positive direction for her. And then once she trashes Texas, once she trashes Oklahoma, then you remind her that Kansas would have beaten Appalachian State. And then it all comes back together and you get her back on topic. So where do you stand? Do you believe in Jimbo Fisher?
I don't know. I feel like I don't know what I need. Because, I believe...
An offensive coordinator? That would be where
That too. I want to believe in this man because we spent $7.5 million a year on him.
You want to believe in this man because you realize you don't have any other choice. You want to believe in this man because Bob Woodward gave him Bob Woodward is a completely different subject matter. Yeah.
I was like, hold on, wait a
second. Yeah, Scott Woodward gave him a fully guaranteed 10-year contract that flipped the coaching carousel on its head, and at least in 2020 looked like a pretty smart move. Fast forward a couple of years, and ESPN had a really interesting article today about it. I love how they tried to act like it's some complicated math. You guys are paying him, I think it's $9.5 million a year now, and it's fully guaranteed. If he gets fired, he is due whatever amount was owed to him for the remainder of the contract. And ESPN's like, oh, it won't be until 2027 until it's under $50 million for his buyout. And it's like, yeah, that's the math checks out. That 5 years from now, $10 million a year. Yeah, $50 million. Yeah, makes sense.
That math is up, yeah.
Yeah, you guys do have arguably the deepest pockets in college football. Are we talking about Giselle and Tom Brady, or are we talking about Ross Bjork and Jimbo Fisher here? Because either way, somebody's going to be paying alimony, and I think Giselle Bundchen's going to be the one on the hook for that in their situation, since she has deeper pockets than Tom Brady.
Tom Brady does.
Yeah.
I saw a meme today that it was her, Nick Foles and Eli Manning is the only people to take rings away from Tom Brady. And I was like, damn.
Feels bad, man.
You shouldn't laughing anyway.
Sometimes you gotta laugh so you don't cry. But how much pressure do we start to see exerted from the boosters? Yeah, I don't, like I said, I'm not familiar with Texas A&M's booster situation like I am Florida State's, even Auburn's, to where they're very involved. It seems like with the way Kevin Sumlin was kind of pushed out the door, that when they want what they want, they will find the money for it and they will make it happen. And it seems like Scott Woodward had maybe, I don't know how much control and sway Ross Bjork has in the athletic department there. But how does this season need to play out for Jimbo Fisher to be on the coaching carousel at the end of the year?
I don't think he'll be at the coaching carousel at the end of the year.
I think it's just too much.
Well, I don't think it's the buyout even that's too much. I think the fact that he just brought in this top class is enough to keep him here. So, because that's something Sumlin was never able to do.
Yeah.
Yes, he brought in top 5 classes, but the number 1 class in the nation and the top class ever is something interesting. That they're going to be like, okay, we'll give you a year to develop those recruits. Right, so I think if we're not 11-1, 12-0 next year, and Connor Wingman's not the quarterback, the seat is way too hot. And I hate to be it'll be next year, because that's like the Aggie thing. Oh, it's okay, there's next year.
I mean, I've kind of, now you and I'm glad to hear you say that, because now you and we can sit back. I personally don't have very many expectations at all. I mean, it's year 1 for us. So beating Utah was nice. Losing to Kentucky and Tennessee sucked. Let's see how the season plays out. There's not a whole lot I can even glean from my team at the moment. Obviously we need to play better, but sample size is just too small right now. Through 90, 100 games under Jimbo Fisher?
Let's see. Yeah. Because this is year 5?
Oh, I thought his record was like 66-37 or something. Maybe I'm thinking of Jim Harbaugh. But yeah, that's what it is. I saw a Jim Harbaugh stat to where through the same number of games, he's like 66-37, and Paul Chryst and Bo Pelini were both 67-36. And, obviously they both Pelini was fired years ago, but they both were fired after their 7th or 8th season, whenever it comes out to. But
so it's 37-16 at A&M. 22-13 in conference, though.
Ugh, that's no bueno.
So,
one thing I will say, again, I'm with you completely on this. I'm just kind of trying to play devil's advocate a little bit here. I don't think Texas A&M is firing Jimbo Fisher this year unless things go terribly wrong.
You lose to Auburn, South Carolina.
Yeah.
If you lose to Auburn and South Carolina, we may be having a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, again, that App State loss, we're kind of sweeping it under the rug a little bit, but that's one that, man, and I feel like even if that game was like a 51-49 type of game, to where, kind of like Georgia and Kent State, right, to where Georgia fumbled the ball 4 or 5 times, or had 4 or 5 turnovers. Kent State, it was kind of a shootout, or a little bit of a shootout, but 17-14 against the Sun Belt team as Texas A&M, that's a tough pill to swallow. But I'm with you. I think he could go 6-6 this year, and maybe even go 9-3 next year, and I would be surprised if he was fired. And that's just my outsider perspective on it. Obviously, you guys as the fan base would have a different perspective on that. And I'm a Florida fan. I mean, our coach went from SEC championship game to fired. We fired two coaches. McElwain went to back-to-back SEC title games and then got fired in the middle of 2017. And then Mullen went to the SEC championship game in 2020 and was fired after 2021. So the leash at Florida is very short. And I don't think that's necessarily always a good thing. So my perspective is maybe a little skewed towards that. But I do think that by the time I think Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC could be a bit of an X factor in that, to where I don't think anybody in Aggie land is going to sit idly by if Jimbo Fisher isn't prepared and shown and has the Aggies looking like the premier SEC team in Texas. I know that this is blasphemy for you to hear, but the way things stand right now, both Texas and Texas A&M not looking so hot. If Texas and Oklahoma are coming into the SEC 2024, next year Jimbo Fisher better be prepared. Like you said, I mean, 11-1, the expectations are going to be real high. If they're coming in 2025, I think he'd get another year to underperform before it was a put up or shut up, and we don't care if we got to pay $80 million. You're gone. I hope for your
until we play Texas in 2025, and if he loses that game, he's getting end zoned. There's no question. If you lose to Texas the first time we played Texas since 2011, no booster will be okay with that. No fan will be okay with that.
Yeah, that would be a tough one. I mean, I don't know, man. You guys are in such an interesting spot. I mean, it really does make for great conversation, because Jimbo Fisher is one of 5, 6 coaches in the country. I mean, if that many now, that's won a national title, and that should go a long way. Obviously, he still recruits at an elite level. You when you guys had Mike Elko and you got Damian Craig, who's your D-line coach, Henderson. Can't remember his first name, but you got some studs on his staff, and do you think that at some point the boosters just come along and say, go hire Garrett Riley? Like, I mean, at what point do the boosters say, go get an offensive coordinator, or I mean, Jimbo Fisher kind of has all the leverage in this situation, which is what makes it even more interesting. Because it's like, what happens if the boosters and AD come in and say, go and make these changes, or else you're out? Okay, fire me.
Fine.
Like, we talk about them, paying almost $10 million to get rid of Scott Frost. Jimbo Fisher's like, hold my beer. Like, what are you going to do? Pay me $75 million not to be your coach? Oh no, the horror. Like, sign me
to work and I get $75. Yeah. Okay.
If this is torture, chain me to the wall.
Honestly. Well, see, this is my thing though. All those guys that are great recruiters and this, that, and the other, Terry Price is the recruiter for the defensive line. That man and his barbecue. Yes. I want to be invited to a summer cookout barbecue, whatever it is that they throw for recruits. I'd like to be invited, because every time they post pictures of the food and I'm like, okay.
Barbecue? Yes. Is that where all the NIL money is roasted and marinated? Is that how? Yeah. It's funny because all the schools are just such copycats, and yeah, I'm with you, Dredd. Yeah, as I imagine Jimbo Fisher's answer would be, "What time you want me to leave?"
No, when do you want me to
go? Yeah. You want me out of the front door or the back door? Either way, $75 million. We'll call this thing even. But Georgia does it, Bama does it, Florida's doing it. Texas A&M, everybody's like, oh, what if? Hear me out, guys. What if we throw a barbecue in the middle of the summer? And then you look around the country and like 85 schools are doing the exact same thing. And it's like, oh wow, what a creative idea, you know. But you know,
And you've seen Lincoln Riley's barbecue. You've seen that on
yeah,
Twitter. That was ouch. How do you call that barbecue? Like that hurt my heart.
I imagine, you know, nowadays it'll be mission burritos and avocado toast or something to
Whatever happens in California.
yeah. It's that question's I can't answer it as a Florida boy my entire life.
Toast.
Yeah. I mean, I think Lincoln Riley's going to do big things. I know that some of our acquaintances are not believers in USC. I think USC is honestly, they have such an unfair advantage in being really the only preeminent West Coast football program. You know, Washington got a little spunky there for a little bit. Stanford's had their moment in the sun. I don't believe in UCLA. I think Chip Kelly's washed. I think everybody is. I think the entire country has taken Chip Kelly's offense and bastardized it and adapted it to what they have. And his offense was revolutionary 15 years ago. 10 years ago, he kind of perfected it, and now with everybody being a copycat, everybody just runs it. You know, so a lot of the things that made Chip Kelly unique, he kind of had a Dan Mullen type thing to where his offense was cool and interesting and exciting, and he wasn't a good recruiter. He's kind of a weirdo. And hold on, I have a visitor.
Hi, friend.
Hello. You want to talk about football? She can't even be around me during football games because she gets so she senses my energy, you know. And I'm on the ottoman, just like frantically moving my hat around and standing up and sitting down, you know, depending on how the momentum's going. And the whole time she's just like, you know, she's. I'm telling you guys, Shelbie is bamboozling me. She keeps bringing up these damn Big 12 schools, and
I'll
I can't.
tell you right now, the only thing that I think of two things when I think of UCLA: pain, and 50,000. Because Josh Rosen was famously quoted as whenever they asked how he was going to deal with the Kyle Field noise, he said, and I quote, "After 50,000, it all sounds the same." So we started chanting 50,000 at him very, very loudly, and he could not get the ball off.
Well, I think it all comes down to Josh Rosen just being bad at football.
That's true, too.
So, with that being said,
big ass comeback, that's pain.
I think we have covered Jimbo Fisher's situation. I think we've covered USC and Big 12 football as much as we can. Let's get on to week 6. Let's start alphabetically, and I think unfortunately for you, that means let's start with Alabama.
Can I just choose to believe that we're going to get our asses handed to us? Because that's what I believed last year.
You should believe that because that's probably what's going to happen.
I believe wholeheartedly that we were going to get our asses handed to us last year. I had accepted that. I was like, well, we've got Zach Calzada, and well, Calzone is, well, no es bueno.
Well, he's on Auburn now, so maybe you can channel some of that Jordan Hare magic. I personally think that the article I read today from ESPN, man, it really I didn't realize that Jimbo Fisher just randomly decided to shuffle up his offensive coaching staff, moving Davian Craig to quarterback coach, moving the quarterback coach to tight ends coach. Like, it feels kind of like what Scott Frost did with hiring the offensive coordinator from Pittsburgh and just saying, okay, you're going to come, I'm going to take a pay cut and you're going to come in and save my hide. Like, if you're going to change up, number one, Damian Craig was a good wide receiver coach at FSU. He was at Auburn for a year, I believe. And he's been a good wide receiver coach. Maybe not good, but he's been at least a good recruiter for you guys. Why? Why not just go and hire somebody else? Like, um, I can't understand. When I read that today, I could not wrap my mind around it. Why? What?
I remember when that came out because they were talking about, oh, well, at practice today, this happened, and this guy was coaching this, and I was like, but that's not his job. Is it? Is it now his job?
Yeah.
Okay, it's now his job. All right, sure. Sure, why not? And obviously it hasn't done shit for us.
You know, I thought that that's you can't say that. I need to get the Spencer Hall picture of hating ass Jimbo Fisher with the giant cowboy hat that he during the press conference when Jimbo Fisher came out wearing like cowboy boots and I don't know if he had a cowboy hat or not, but he had on cowboy boots and he had just fully leaned into I am now in Texas. And it's a little bit easier because he is from West Virginia, so you know he is pretty country. A little bit easier for him to assimilate than Brian Kelly at Louisiana or at LSU.
Oh
But yeah, when he first came to Texas A&M, it was so funny to I'm not, if you aren't familiar with Spencer Hall, he's probably Florida's second greatest product behind Tim Tebow. And he is a blessing to college football. But they had some fun with Jimbo Fisher because he just showed up and he was ready to go to show that he was a cowboy. But
him that trophy that had no year on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we were recruiting a guy against Texas A&M, and he had a top two of Florida and Texas A&M, and he ended up committing to Florida. But he had like a graphic made, and it had different stats, different things on it comparing the two, and for the national championships, it just said 39 but it didn't say 1939. And so it was like 08, 06 on, 96 on our side. And on y'all's side, it was like 39, something, whatever other year. But it, it was just funny to see them side by side because it's like one of them is,
one of these is not like the other.
One of these is after Brown v. Board of Education, and the other is not.
One of these is post World War II.
Yeah. I didn't realize, but the thing that blew my mind the most about Texas A&M that I learned today, you guys are dead last in the country in plays run per game. You guys are averaging like 54 plays per game.
That's
and 131st out of 131. And that stat, like we ran 48 plays against USF. And I just could not believe how painfully slow that game was for us. And when I saw that stat and realized that you guys are running about that many plays, yeah, exactly. Like I think we ran like 80 plus plays a piece in the Florida Tennessee game. I can't understand what's happened to his offense. But do you think that you think that what do you need to see from your team this weekend to get the dub over Bama? Maybe even if you want to give me a moral victory, well, what do you want to see that's going to give you more faith in Texas A&M this weekend, and what do you need to see from your team, your players that makes you think you're going to get a win?
Heart. I wrote in my article about the App State game that none of us wanted to win. It was obvious that none of them cared to win. They cared to win the Arkansas game. You could tell. They didn't give a crap. The defense gave a crap about Mississippi State. The offense, it's like Anaya Smith was hurt, and all of a sudden nobody wanted to play anymore. That center, Bryce Foster, what are you doing? What are you doing? Hiking the ball 10 yards behind you? Why? Why you do this to me?
Yeah. I saw it last year with our team, and I don't know how you come back from that, honestly. I like, again, when I watch Texas A&M, I maybe have softened up a bit because we're doing this show together, and it's fun talking to you, and I don't want to see you in pain. I don't have enough feelings towards Texas A&M to actively root against them.
I was about to say, I know a couple people.
However, I do have enough feelings about Jimbo Fisher to actively root against him. And so I will say the entire team quitting on Jimbo Fisher a little bit easier could make the process a little bit easier for you guys. I mean, it's hard though. That's a locker room thing. That's a culture thing, and that all starts with the head coach. And I mean, for us, South Carolina last year, that was the breaking point for most. I mean, really, it had kind of been broken before that, but that was when we couldn't hide it anymore. And if Bama comes out here and puts up, if it's like a 52-21, 52-14 type game,
I don't know. We'll get 14. We're thinking.
Again, I'm trying to be optimistic here, Shelby. I
don't have that ability. After the Mississippi State game, I don't have that ability anymore. After 2 fumbles in the red zone.
Yeah, that's rough.
One being sweet Devon A-Chain. Like, Devon, do better. I know he doesn't listen to this because he doesn't have time because he's too busy running circles around people. But, like, honestly, do better. Be better.
Yeah, the turnovers are never fun. So
had you subtract those turnovers and actually turn them into points, that's a lot closer of a game.
Yeah, it's always a fun game to play. As somebody whose quarterback has thrown like 7 interceptions and fumbled it like 4 times, I've played that game a few times myself, to where it's like, hey, if we didn't throw these pick sixes, we probably win the game. But so give me a prediction. What you got?
We're getting our asses handed to us, and that's all I can say.
That's all you can say.
I score out there because this has shades of. Couldn't tell you what year it was. I'd have to go back and look because I've erased it from my memory. Oklahoma 77-0.
I don't think it's going to be that bad.
I'm going to say, but it's that kind of pain that is going to happen on Saturday.
I think not having Bryce Young is going to be Jalen Milroe looked really good. I know they say he's day-to-day. I'm not sure. I haven't checked today to see if he's actually going to be playing in the game. I'm just going to mark him as not playing just because I doubt that they would rush him back against a team that lost to App State. But
why? I'm Googling the Bryce Young, see if he's going to play. Let's see. These are facts about Bryce Young.
I will say Bryce Young adds a touchdown to whatever score ends up being. I'll say Bama 42, Texas A&M 17.
That's being nice.
I think that I do think that you guys have the talent, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying about the players just not seeming to care. I mean, it's not like you guys have bad players. It's not like there's some huge gap between you and Bama. It's about heart. It's about trying and caring and buying in. In a game against Bama, every player on that team is going to want to give Bama their best shot. I mean, you have guys on that team who chose Texas A&M over Bama. And maybe, sometimes it's just hard to get up and get motivated for a game against App State or Mississippi State or whoever when you're those types of players because you think you should win. You think that it doesn't matter. I'm going to come in and get this dub. Against Bama, you got to earn it. Every player on your team is going to use their game against Bama for their NFL highlight reel. They're going to have this game circled on the calendar, and that's always going to be a difference maker. And I think that you guys, if you slow the game down like you're going to do, yeah, exactly. Um, you slow the game down and you play good defense. Both of those things you're capable of doing. You don't turn the ball over. I do think that I think you guys could make it interesting. Um, yeah. So
You have to remind me, Dren. It hurt enough. I know. The three man. Oh, I can't.
yeah. All right. Well, I will let you off the hook. We'll move on to our next game. Let me write this down. Ethan 45-17. Shelbie
Sadness.
equal pain and sadness.
That brings to what? Archie and Mississippi State?
Yep, that would be, or yeah, Arkansas will come next. Yeah, Tennessee always has a lot of air in their lungs until they get that first loss, and then they suddenly go quiet, and then next year's their year. But we'll get to Tennessee shortly. I don't think they'll. Well, let me just say, I don't think they'll have air in their lungs for much longer. So yeah, so Arkansas and Mississippi State, the battle of your previous two opponents. Who comes out on top? What you thinking?
I feel like if Mississippi State wins this game and does so convincingly, you have to start to believe in the Bulldogs, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this play out a couple times with Mike Leach with Texas Tech and Washington State, to where when he has a veteran team, when he has a veteran quarterback, and he has faith in his guys, and he has the right pieces in place. Mike Leach, his offenses are always a problem, but when he has guys that are developed and capable and disciplined on defense, that's when he has those Texas Tech over Texas games, when he has those Washington State Pac-12 North champion games. The problem with him has always been doing it year over year, which is the requirement at Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Bama, whatever. But he's at Mississippi State now, to where he can get away with that. And I do think that this is one of those years to where he has the ingredients to make something interesting happen. Based off of the games that you've watched, you're more familiar with these two teams than I am, because you've watched these two teams play recently, whereas I've kind of just caught them in passing. Who's the better team, Arkansas or Mississippi State? Using Texas A&M as the barometer.
Measuring stick, yeah. Mississippi State grabbed that lead and held it. They grabbed all the momentum. They took it. Them and their cowbells were not letting us go. Arkansas had the 14-0 lead and then decided to what? Give up the touchdown to make it 14-7. Oh, 14-7. And then gave up, then decided to try to Superman 4 yards out into the end zone like a whole ass dumbass. I will never let KJ Jefferson live that down. Like, what were you doing? What was your plan? But, like, I don't think that Arkansas has the ability to grab the momentum when they have it. I don't think Arkansas can sustain their success for 4 quarters. Mississippi State can.
See, it's funny because LSU basically did to Mississippi State what you guys did to Arkansas, to where Mississippi State jumped out to a 13-0 lead, 16-0 lead, something in that range, and then LSU just shut them down. They didn't score again, and LSU ended up winning that game, kind of pulled away, and that's always an interesting phenomenon to me because generally good offenses, we kind of saw Georgia do it this past weekend against Kent State, to where, or excuse me, against Missouri, to where the whole game they were kind of going, but neither team was really pulling away with it, but Georgia was kind of just sticking around. And then at the end of the game, when it mattered, the fourth quarter, Georgia put up 2 touchdowns and got the lead and kind of closed it out. When I see teams that go back and forth, kind of like Arkansas and Mississippi State have done, to where 1 week their offense looks like they can score at will against SEC defenses, and then the next week it's like they'll have their scripted first drive that looks good, maybe the second drive, and then the defensive coordinator or the players kind of adjust, and then they just die. And that's always such a I feel like this game is 2 teams that I think Mississippi State has a bit more momentum. I think Arkansas has kind of stumbled and they kind of got blasted by Bama this weekend. So I think Mississippi State's going to win this one by 2 touchdowns, personally.
I agree with that.
Mississippi State finding their running game against a pretty decent Texas A&M defense that was kind of your hey man, I'm trying to be nice. Dargan might be somewhere reading a deposition, watching our stream, and I don't want to fry his bacon. Okay.
I'm fine. It's fine.
But yeah, I mean, I think Mississippi State has this one, 10-14 point win. I'll say 35-24 is my score prediction for Mississippi State,
Which is
Arkansas.
weird because the articles that I normally read that are like preview articles has this like a 4-point game. And I'm like, I just don't see it being that close.
Yeah, I mean, you see the spread. The spread's 4.5. So I think Mississippi State offense and defense has just looked better in the even in the limited time that I've seen those teams play. What I've seen from Mississippi State outside of the last 3 quarters or so against LSU, they've looked pretty good. Yeah, Arkansas just honestly, I hate to say this, but honestly, you guys kind of got lucky against them.
Like,
Yeah, the doink and the fun. I mean, those 2 plays just don't happen very often. College kickers miss kicks all the time. They don't generally land directly on the goalpost. But hey, a win's a win. You gotta do what you gotta do. But Mississippi State has just looked better.
I'm still gonna hold on to that. We had a minute and a half left, and something could have happened if they would have made.
Hey, I'm with you. I agree with that. But even then, you look at that fumble. That's a play that's not a winning recipe. Like, again, I'm not trying to get back on you guys. You take a win when you can get it.
Right. It's not a play that happens on a daily basis. Like, it's not something you don't practice that one.
Yeah.
And shout out to Damani Richardson for being there.
Yep. Hey, Caleb Williams did it last year for Oklahoma, to where the running back was getting tackled on 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, whatever it was, and Caleb Williams comes up behind him and basically just takes the ball out of his hands and takes off. Smart players make smart plays. You can't discredit that. But I think Mississippi State wins this one by double digits.
Yep, we're gonna go with that.
So on to the deep south, clean old-fashioned hatred. Is it? Which one? Which one's clean old fashioned hatred, and which one is the deep South oldest rivalry?
Hmm.
I think Georgia Tech is clean old fashioned hate, and see, this is why nobody cares about Georgia on this show. This-
No.
yeah, nobody cares about those guys. I think it's the deep South oldest rivalry though. So we'll go Auburn, Georgia. I don't think we really need to even spend much time on this. I said the same thing last week
We
against.
said that about Missouri.
I mean, I had the same thought that the Missouri game was going to be a bloodletting. At some point, either Georgia's going to have to shit or get off the pot. I mean, either they're going to wake up and be who we think they are, or they're going to continue to stumble through the season. And, as my friend Dren says, you sleepwalk against Tennessee, they're gonna jump up on you. I mean, I saw it firsthand. We didn't sleepwalk. We gave Tennessee literally everything we could handle and still lost. Georgia's a much better team than we are, though. So I think that Georgia is kind of sleepwalking through this season so far, and obviously, aside from the Oregon game in Week 1, they've looked pretty pedestrian. A pedestrian Georgia is still better than probably 125 of the 131 teams in the country, though. So, it's again, it kind of goes back. It's just not a winning recipe. So at some point, either Georgia wakes up and gets rolling again, or somebody's going to jump up and get them. I don't think Auburn is the team to do it. I think that Georgia could.
Broken, so he's not. Well, we'll say this: they say Zach Calzada is broken, but apparently he was suited up 2 weeks ago and on the sideline.
So, what does Zach Calzada have a red shirt? Would you know that information? I know it's a very specific question, but there is a growing. I'm not sure if you've seen the. Now you can't forget the COVID year. The COVID year throws a kink into all of that. But
now I have to ask.
So, for any of the wondering, inquiring minds out there, take a look at some of Pete Thamel's reporting on Houston, SMU, and Miami's players' plan to redshirt and hit the portal. Because this is something that I don't think is a good sign for college football. There are rumors that one of our players is doing it as well, but he's been on the sideline participating. I never like to question injuries, just because, I mean, it's even if somebody's faking an injury in the middle of a game, it's annoying, but it's a rough game. Guys are getting smashed.
He's wearing a medical red shirt
this year.
So medical red shirt this year.
Okay, so he's probably going to be in the portal again.
And
but
undergoing season-ending shoulder surgery as of 2 days ago.
Is he from Texas?
I don't believe so.
But yeah, that's a trend. Georgia, okay. So that's a trend that I'm going to be keeping my eye on, are the number of guys who played, started, suited up, whatever, the first 4 games of the year, and then either because of depth chart changes, injuries, situation changes, whatever, they've now basically decided to sit out the rest of the season and transfer. We saw it with De'Aaron King and some of the Houston guys a couple of years ago, where Dana Holgorsen basically asked them to redshirt, and they said, "Okay, sure, yeah, what a great idea, thanks, coach." And then the season ended, and they all transferred. So I think that it's a dangerous game to play, but that's something I'm going to keep my eye on. And when you said that, it just kind of made me think about that storyline that's going on right now in college football.
I'm trying to think of where Zach would fit, though.
Well, think about Nick Starkel. You're thinking of where he's going to fit in the SEC, where he's going to fit, whatever. Maybe he goes to Washington State. Look at a guy like Michael Penix, who's at Washington now after being at Indiana. Guys can go anywhere in the country and get a fresh start. And now with NIL, you don't have to worry so much about the financial constraints of where you're living, things like that. But you also don't have to. You can just choose a specific scheme that's going to work for you. And the teams are playing that game now too, to where instead of trying to find one plug and play guy, you got teams that bring in 25, 30 transfers and flip a roster in a year. And so I think that this year Portal Combat is going to be full of fatalities, and people are going to, in the words of Scorpion, the good teams are going to say, get over here and yank these guys off of teams and onto their roster and keep building. I hope Florida does it. I hope Florida rotates our roster and turns it over quickly. And I think that's going to be a big part to guys like Zach Calzada, maybe even TJ Finley. I mean, I hate to say it, but rats off a sinking ship. Like, do you want to risk your chance at a fresh start on a lost season for Bryan Harsin? Because I wouldn't.
No, you're
But
right.
yeah,
Haynes King is going to be so good at like SMU.
exactly. There you go. I mean, you let a guy like that get a fresh start, go to a new scheme, get a new coach, new change of scenery, and that's their path to the NFL. Jeff Driscoll did it, for Florida 10 years ago, to where he was garbage for us, transfers to Louisiana Tech and sets school records under a new scheme with a coach that actually knows what he's doing. And he's still in the NFL. Jacoby Brissett did it for us. I am all for players finding a better situation for themselves because they deserve it. I mean, they've earned it.
I know a lot of people that are like very, very against the transfer portal because they're like, this is like turning into the NFL and this, that.
Yeah.
These are kids.
Yeah.
They're kids. They deserve to find a place where they feel at home.
Yep.
And if it isn't here, that doesn't make them a bad person.
Yep. And you have coaches who the entire time football, NFL, college has been a thing, coaches could leave. Like, we're talking about buyouts the first 20 minutes of the show. Jimbo Fisher also has a clause in his contract where if he goes to another school, Texas A&M doesn't have to pay for it. Because that's the thing coaches do. Like, and coaches don't get blasted for doing that. They don't get, Billy Napier chose to coach Louisiana through their conference championship game. It cost him a week of recruiting, of planning, of getting to know the players at Florida, and that hindered us. I think that it hindered us recruiting wise in the portal at the end of the year, all those things. But ultimately, it was the right thing to do. I mean, how can you as a coach sit and look a kid or their parents in the eye and say, I'm going to do everything I can for your son. I'm going to make him a better man. And then you turn around and in the biggest game of their lives, you leave. Like, you know what I'm saying? I mean, as a Florida fan, I understood it. It was maybe a little frustrating. But as a person, I totally understood it. And I totally think it was the right thing to do. As a selfish fan, I wish he would have come earlier, but phrasing. But if that's the right thing to do, good people do the right thing, and we have a lot of good coaches in the country and a lot of shitheads. So yeah, Auburn, Georgia, I think wakes up in a rivalry game, and I think that it's going to be like, I'm going to say 38-7. I don't think Auburn has the horses. I don't think they have the game plan. I think Georgia could sleepwalk through. I think Missouri is a bigger problem than Auburn, unless they get magic, and there ain't no magic left in that wand.
Oh, Missouri and that fumble. I still.
That's one of those that.
Job.
Yeah, You had one job.
And honestly, it's like somebody on the sideline told him, you don't score. Don't do it. So he went
Yeah, it was probably Bryan Harsin.
Please let me win. Please let me win. I will give you $20. Please let me win. I really wanted Zach Calzada to somehow come out of the woodworks and be Auburn's quarterback for the Iron Bowl, but I guess that's not happening.
You only get one miracle game against Alabama. You don't get two. Don't press your luck, Zach Calzada.
Zachary Calzada. No, I laughed so hard because Zach Calzada's I think it was his shoulder that got messed up against Alabama. And they like put it back in the socket or what have you. And whenever Anais went down during the Arkansas game, someone said whatever they gave Zach Calzada, give Anais a double shot. I was like, guys, that's not how this works. He broke a bone. That's not how this works.
Slightly different.
Apparently, Anais went on his Instagram live and said it was just a high ankle sprain.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
And then it came out that wasn't the case. I didn't see the Instagram live because once it's over, it like disappears.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know how Instagram works. I don't do Instagram that often. Like I don't do Instagram live and shit. But like, okay. So my question is, where along the line did it go from a high ankle sprain to I'm having season-ending surgery?
I will say Anais Smith saying it's just a high ankle sprain is like Tua saying it's just a headache.
Yeah, poor Tua. Poor Tua. I showed that to my mom, and she goes, "Why are his fingers doing that?" I was like, "They're not supposed to."
Mm-mm.
And she's like, "Well, yeah, but they didn't hit his fingers." And I'm like, "That's the point."
Yeah, you should have went to the spine connects to the brain stem,
and then you do this thing. Like what? Like I watched it, I was like, "Oh my god, why?"
Yeah.
Why did you let him play? I'm sorry, Rebel. My cat is like, I yelled at the cat looking at me.
I told you, my dog, she can't even be in the same room with me during game day, so I totally understand. All right, so I think we're in agreement. Auburn and Georgia's going to be probably a slaughter.
I'm not good at the alphabet, so don't ask me what game is next. I'm a teacher. I'm not good at the alphabet.
So we got the 3 A's covered. So now one of them's playing the G, so we'll go to the F.
There you go. I had to, like I said, I am a first grade teacher. I'm not good at the alphabet.
That's next year.
That's second grade, guys. Alphabetical order, second grade.
So yeah, I think I'll take the lead on this one. We look pretty good against Eastern Washington. But I will say, yeah, the Eagles of Eastern Washington, home of Cooper Kupp. But yeah, they're a good FCS team. They're not such a good FCS team that we should have given up 400 yards to them. In fairness, they had like 250 through the first like 50 minutes of the game. And then we emptied, we had like 75 players play in the game, and they ended up scoring 2 touchdowns against like our walk-ons and stuff. Hopefully Florida gets to a point to where even our walk-ons don't give up 2 touchdowns and 200 yards to an FCS team, but it's still better than what Samford did to us last year, so I'm going to say progress. But 2 weeks in a row, offense has looked really good. Anthony Richardson's looked really good. It's not a whole lot that I can really glean from a home blowout win of an FCS team traveling across the country. I will say that the team. It seems like somehow Florida we're the only team that ever has to deal with hurricane stuff. I know UCF and South Carolina had to move their games a little bit, but this is like the fourth or fifth time that a hurricane has had some kind of impact on the game in the past like 10 years. But good on the team for staying focused when you have that stuff. We get a lot of players from Tampa, Fort Myers, that whole area. It's always kind of a tricky situation when you have players whose families are possibly homeless now and stuff like that. Hopefully everybody's okay. Um, but I think this is gonna be a big test. This is homecoming for us. I'm going to my first game in 10 years.
Oh,
Taking my wife and daughter to their first games ever. So we're going down to Gainesville this weekend. Really excited for that. And I think that it's going to be a big test for us. I mean, Missouri, our fan base is so dumb sometimes because they're like, Florida should never lose to Kentucky and Tennessee and Missouri. And then you're like, dude, number one, the only reason Florida had such impressive streaks over Tennessee and Kentucky, a lot of it was luck. A lot of it was last second plays, even when Spurrier and Urban Meyer were here. And people just conveniently forget that. And they like Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's a team that we pretty much have blown out consistently for years. And most everybody in the SEC has. Kentucky's a team that 75% of the time we would blow out. Especially when Kentucky was bad, pre Mark Stoops Kentucky. Tennessee, up until the streak started in 07, that was a very back and forth series. And so this mentality of like, oh, Spurrier and Meyer never lost to Tennessee and Kentucky. And I don't know why I do such a stupid accent for our fans, but it works. But they, you know, we got away with a lot of games against both of those teams. And Missouri, we're 5-5 against Missouri since they joined the SEC. Like Missouri won the SEC East their first 2 years in the conference. And it's like people are just like, oh, Florida should always beat Missouri. And it's like, in what? Like, yes, like obviously from a talent acquisition perspective, Florida has access to a lot better players. We put a lot more players in the league. Stuff like that doesn't really matter when two teams face off head to head. But I hear that. But Missouri's just had our number. They've been a real thorn in our side since they've come to the SEC. And my wife's first memory of Florida football was 2014, Florida versus Missouri. It was homecoming. And Missouri scored a touchdown on a kick return, a punt return, a fumble recovery for a touchdown, an interception recovery, or an interception for a touchdown, a passing touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. Missouri hit for the cycle against us when it came to touchdowns. At the end of the game, I think they had like 130 yards or something of total offense. And it was like 45-14 or something. Like, I mean, it was wild. And obviously, our fans were chanting very loudly, "Fire Muschamp." And to this day, whenever Will Muschamp or the crowd's cheering or Missouri is brought up, my wife is just like, do you remember that time that they were chanting "Fire Muschamp"? And I was like, I do, because they fired him the next day because that game was an embarrassment to our program. And little do we know Jim McElwain would take us to really, even lower depths really only experienced by aquatic creatures like sharks. Um,
it's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Oh, so yeah. So Florida, I think we keep rolling. I don't think Missouri has the offense to. I don't know. Our defense has made everybody's offense look incredible this year. Our defense is spectacularly bad. I'm fingers crossed, hoping that some of the changes that we have on the roster, on the depth chart, make the difference. I think Florida wins. I'm going to say 28-11. 11. They touchdown, 2-point conversion, field goal. 11. 28-11.
That is very specific. I will see that kind of thing makes me think of. I have to look at what that final score was, but I think it was Colin Gillaspia's final season at Aggieland, and we were getting blown out by Alabama at home, and then he got a safety, and Kyle Field lost it. Lost it. And I was standing there and I looked around and I was like, why are we so excited? Now we're losing by like 20. These 2 points aren't going to do shit for us. But it's
so Florida has the record for the most consecutive games scored of any team in FBS history, and it's active. And we're like 50-something games ahead of the next closest team.
Does games like scored in?
Yes, okay. Not being shut out. Basically the record for games without being shut out. And the only reason that streak is still going, I want to say it was 2017 against FSU. They ended up scoring a safety, and I think the final score was like 27-2. And those were the only points we scored the entire game. And because of that, we still have the streak going. But every time, if we start the game with a field goal on our first drive, every Florida fan's like, you know what? It's okay. The streak is intact. If we lose, we at least didn't get shut out.
I ain't getting shut out today.
Yeah, not today.
It's like I remember the very first game I ever went to as an Aggie student. We won 77-3. And I met a Lamar fan on my way out of the stadium. And I said, oh, I hope you enjoyed your time at College Station. They said, we didn't get shut out today. I said, oh, okay. And this person had sat through a 3-hour rain delay before the game started. Mm-hmm. To sit there and sit through the entire game 77-3. I think it was the player's parent.
Bless her heart.
Of course, every time I think of players' parents, I think of Admon Gilder's parents leaving that miracle comeback early. Then he made the game-winning shot, turned around, looked for his mama, and she wasn't there.
Oh, that's rough.
Because she's like, well, they're losing. It's fine. We were in the NCAA tournament. It's fine. And then he made the game winner and turned around and she was gone. And he interviewed the game after the game and he goes, my parents owe me something. I was like, damn, Adam.
Oh, that's rough.
Twitter. Fun facts.
All right, let's go on to the next game. What you got a prediction for me? Florida, Missouri?
I'm no good at picking scores, but I will tell you that I think Florida will win.
We'll take it.
I'm no good at pulling scores out of the air because I don't like being wrong. It gives me stress.
Yeah, I understand that. See, for me, I don't mind being wrong, but I live for
being
the unexpected. Well, a wife would say that I live for being right. We disagree on that. Of course, I think I'm right all the time, but I like to just take incredibly unrealistic shots, and even if it's 1%, if it comes to fruition, I mean, I look like a genius. And so, even if I'm wrong 99% of the time, that 1%, I will forever remember it.
My mother at the Arkansas game. If we would have made that field goal, I would have been right.
Yeah, exactly.
Calm down.
All right, so South Carolina at Kentucky. What you thinking? Kentucky?
South Carolina and oh my God, what's his bucket? Quarterback.
Spencer Rattler.
Thank you. That one kid. Very forgettable. He's not it. Again, I'll say it, and I've said it till blue in the face. If you can't make it in a quarterback-friendly offense at Oklahoma, how do you expect to make it in the SEC? I'm sorry, Spencer Rattler. It's just not a thing.
Yep. Let's see. Hold on. I'm trying to find where he is.
Keep staring at my wall because I had Gig'em on the wall, and then the gig fell off, so now it just says
So Spencer Rattler is 115th in the country.
There you go.
Yeah. So Anthony Richardson, who's had some very, very bad games, he is 58th. Let's see.
What, in QBR?
Yeah, in QBR. I tend to number one, I like QBR because it makes my quarterback look better. Because his QB rating is worse because he runs a lot. But also in modern football, I feel like not accounting for quarterback running when you have guys like Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray and, Stetson Bennett at Georgia. I mean, I could name a ton, but I feel like quarterback scrambles and run, Hendon Hooker, they're just too important to modern offenses to just ignore like quarterback rating does. But most importantly, it makes Anthony Richardson look better. Max Johnson is 79th.
Yeah.
Let's see, is Haynes King? Haynes King is not on here.
I don't think he's enough.
But yeah, I didn't think he had either. But yeah, Spencer Rattler is pretty handily the worst quarterback, has the worst QBR in the SEC. Number one overall draft pick, Will Levis, is 10th, right ahead of Max Johnson and behind Anthony Richardson. I feel like the top half of the league, I feel like they're going to have some coming down to earth. I would say you've got Hendon Hooker, Bryce Young, Stetson Bennett, Jaden Daniels, Jackson Dart, Will Rogers, KJ Jefferson. Those are the top half. If you ask me at the end of the year, this is sort of a third of the season prediction. I think Hendon Hooker, Bryce Young, Stetson Bennett. I would probably put Will Rogers and Anthony Richardson in the top 5. I think KJ Jefferson and Jackson Dart are going to continue going down a little bit more.
You left Will Levis out.
Well, Will Levis is already behind all those guys. So, I don't think we'll see his QBR go up until he's, the first overall pick in the draft. Because obviously, if you're the 10th best quarterback in the SEC, you're probably going to be the first overall pick in the NFL. It only makes sense.
Oh, see, when you said 10th, I thought you meant 10th in the nation. I was like, why are we leaving him out then? Now I understand.
Yes, 10th in the country.
Now we are on the same page. Okay, I was very confused. I was like, why are we leaving Will Levis out if he's number 10? Now I understand.
Let's see if I can do this. Hold on. Well,
Hello, Rabiska. Can I help you with something? Come here. Come make a friend. Oh, this is my friend.
So can you see this? This is the...
Yes.
Let me close out my other tabs here. So here, I wasn't sure if this feature was even on StreamYard, so I'm glad it is. But these are the 14 qualifying quarterbacks in the SEC. Somehow, preseason top 5 quarterback in the SEC, Spencer Rattler. Whoever could have seen Spencer Rattler not being a good quarterback? I mean,
could have thought that.
Who could have known? I will say I got to give credit to Jaden Daniels. He looked pretty bad week 1. And then the fact that he has managed to make it into the top 5 is pretty good. He uses his mobility a lot, but pretty good. This guy right here, though, I've been saying it. It's the season of chaos. Anthony Richardson, AR for Heisman campaign has new life.
Oh, okay. If that's what helps you sleep at night.
Somehow he's moved up mock drafts. It makes no sense to me. All right, so South Carolina or Kentucky, who you got?
Say if someone can take Haynes King and Max Johnson off my hands for me.
What, Matt? You're already giving up on Max Johnson?
Well, I need Connor Wingman to start, so that's the only way I can do it.
Hey, who has been saying that since the start of the season? Let me just raise my hand for the viewers out there. This guy right here, the Florida fan who has to play Texas A&M this year, has been pounding the table. Shelbie didn't believe me. She said, "Oh, Haynes King, he's going to be the guy. He's fast. He can throw it 100 yards. I believe in Haynes King." You have the same copium that I do after AR-15 had the bad game against Kentucky and against USF. But
I never said Haynes King was the guy.
We'll have to roll it back. I'll have to look into that.
I feel like I said that other people think Haynes King is the guy. I don't said that I agree with that.
Gotcha.
Because I have never been on the Haynes King hype train since the 3 interception performance against Kent State.
I mean, I imagine the Haynes King hype train is literally just the engine with him shoveling coal into it. Yeah, he's just desperately trying to keep it going. Yeah, he's out there just like, sniping Max Johnson to get back into the game.
Oh my God. No, one of my kids today at recess was walking around, and mind you, he doesn't English very well, but he is like deep voice, freeze, and like pretending with a gun. And I was like, okay, we're putting the guns away now. He doesn't understand what I'm saying. And I'm like, no, I know you can understand what I'm saying. Put the gun away. And he's like, okay, this is fine. This is what I deal with in first grade, guys.
Oof. That is a conversation for a different day, I think. Who you got? South Carolina or Kentucky?
Kentucky, easily.
Shelbie, UK, easily. As always, I got to give a score prediction here. I'm gonna go 32-14. Kentucky wins. Ethan, 32-14. UK. All right, we got 2 more games. So we'll go to LSU, Tennessee at LSU. Oh, we should have started with this one earlier so that I could have really got my blood pressure up. How on earth? So since the SEC expanded in 1992 and Florida got stuck with LSU, you know how many national titles LSU has won? 3.
Let's say 20 and
so in 30 years, LSU's won 3 national titles. Florida has won 3 national titles. Florida State has won 3 national titles. So that's essentially a third of all of the national titles that have been won in that time period. And we have 2 of them on our permanent schedule. Now, Tennessee, the big orange hullabaloo, if you will, how is it that they finally catch LSU? And it's not even a good LSU team. It's year 1 of the great pretender. And not only do they catch a bad LSU team, but they catch a bad LSU team in a noon kickoff.
That's not fair.
They couldn't even give them a night game in Death Valley to deal with that bullshit.
That voodoo shit.
We talk about Jordan. A night game in Death Valley is not where you ever want to be as a road favorite or a road top 10 team. Nobody. It doesn't matter if you're number 1 Bama, number 1 Georgia. Nobody wants to go into Death Valley for a 7:30 kickoff with a bunch of drunk full on gumbo and crawdads. See, and Mr. Rollins brings up a good point. They wanted the slap fight.
We're not playing at 3:30. We have the night game.
It is unacceptable and that's the thing. They should have put y'all at 3:30 and then put the LSU Tennessee game, the only matchup between ranked teams in the SEC this week, as the 7:30 game, and let Tennessee deal with some corn dog magic. Let Tennessee deal with the voodoo mamas putting curses all over Big Orange Nation, because that shit ain't no fun. And the fact that Tennessee somehow ducked it until this year when they're bad and got a noon kickoff, I gotta say, I think Greg Sankey's a Tennessee fan. I mean, that's the only reasoning I can think of. I'm going conspiracy theory here. Like, I'm going full on. Greg Sankey thinks that Knoxville is somehow relevant at all, and because of the what?
The collusion.
Yeah, collusion. Exactly. This is some collusion illusion shit. That's the only reason I can think of it. All of that being said, I think it's time the big orange balloon pops. I do think that oh, so you guys went to LSU for a night game 20 years ago? Whoa, that must be tough for you guys. I'm telling you, that right here, our Field of Streams buddies, if you haven't checked them out, go check them out. SEC Field of Streams, they have a great point. I think LSU is getting it going, and I think that they may not have the full Magic experience to have a 9-6 type of situation like they did with Bama years ago. I do think that they have enough Magic going to make it a 31-27 game. And Tennessee, that's the sound of the air leaving Tennessee's lungs as they depart from the Bayou. Because LSU is going to get this dub, and they're going to see what kind of bullshit goes on when you're in the red stick. And it's not fun. I don't know why Duran's going to bring up Hurricane. The first LSU home game after Katrina. Brother, it's been 17 years since Hurricane Katrina happened, and you're acting like that's some kind of defense? They don't want us. Let me put this back up here. They don't want us down there at night. Now, this is coming from a guy whose team just got their second win over Florida in 15 years, who's on a 15-game losing streak to Alabama and has beaten Georgia twice in the same time period. This is coming from a fan base that considers Vanderbilt as one of their top two rivals. Unironically, too. They don't even see the irony in it. So, yeah, I think LSU is going to get this win like Florida should have if we had a little bit more time. Ty Chickasaw Bowman didn't go out of bounds and cost us 12 seconds. Our defense also played like shit. I don't think LSU's defense is going to play like shit, and I think LSU gets this dub 31-27 is my prediction.
Are you buying into the Aggie philosophy? If you never lose, you only run out of time?
Not usually. Not usually. Usually when we lose. So as a Florida fan, we're very offensive focused with Spurrier and Meyer kind of being the guy, and recently Mullen. So when we've lost, it's generally been we've gotten our asses kicked. Not always, but generally. So the more time there is, that generally means our defense needs to hold on to a lead that our offense has gotten us. So generally, we want the game to end. That's just my opinion. I know what you're saying. Yeah,
moniker for the Aggies is we don't. I've seen them lose, and I've seen them win, and I've never seen them quit, and they never. We never lose. We only run out of time, and I'm like, sometimes I want.
Yeah. Last season after the Kentucky game for sure. Most of us were just ready for the season to be over. We got hype for the almost Alabama W we only lost by 2 points to Alabama. And then, we gave up 52 to Samford and got our shit kicked in by South Carolina and Georgia. So most of us were ready for the clock to run out on last season. So maybe in 2020 when we were playing Texas A&M and LSU and maybe we did have that philosophy, but in general, no, we don't ascribe to that.
Man, 2020 was fun. Speaking of 2020, the Orange Bowl champions.
That was the beginning of the end. That shoe, that really the Texas A&M game, but in particular the shoe toss. There was also a play in the SEC championship game where our now much maligned safety Trey Dean intercepted Mac Jones and proceeded to run it out of the end zone and got his shit rocked by John Mechie and fumbled the ball back to Alabama, who then scored a touchdown on the next play. So that play, and then we end up losing by 6. So that's one of those, like you're saying, did we lose it or we ran out of time? You go back and look, and that play alone, if we just don't fumble it and give it back, if he just kneels in the end zone, theoretically we just win the game. But whatever. It's all in the past now. In Napier we trust. We're on LSU Tennessee. Who are you picking?
LSU Tennessee. At LSU, but 11 a.m. Well, 11 a.m. I had to think of time zones. We'll go LSU. Just because I can only handle so much Tennessee.
They're a lot, aren't they? You don't hear, they're like cicadas. You don't hear anything from them for 15 years at a time, and then when they come out, they just make a lot of noise. They refuse to elaborate, and then they disappear for another 15 years.
Every time I think of cicadas, I think of the ones that you can hear outside in my parents' new house. And my little sister likes to scream, "Shut up, cicadas!" That's how I feel about
it. Yeah. I used to use it for FSU fans, but FSU fans have been quiet for so long now that they had a brief reemergence. They had a bit of a false chrysalis, if you will, to where they briefly became relevant again for the first 4 weeks of this year, and then they lost to the first ranked team they played, and then all of a sudden,
now they're quiet.
They disappeared. It's weird, Like I said, Bobby Bowden's rolling over, and any FSU fans listen, anybody who knows an FSU fan, just remember Bobby Bowden is rolling over in his old ass grave at the fact that FSU fans are this happy about being 4-1, unranked, and losing to Wake Forest. Y'all should not be happy. Y'all should be firing your coach, and instead y'all think y'all got the next Jimbo Fisher. No offense, this is prime Jimbo Fisher. They think they have the second coming of Jimbo Fisher at FSU. Anyways, that's my FSU tangent. Fuck FSU.
I feel about Texas.
Yes, exactly. We just because it's SEC biased doesn't mean that you can't catch these L's. Catch some strays. Texas and FSU. Ole Miss and Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt. What you got?
Ole Miss. If Ole Miss took down Kentucky, there's no reason they should struggle with Vanderbilt. However, this game has trap written all over it.
I generally would agree with that. I think Vandy got a little bit too much love for their performance against Hawaii and FCS. I think Vandy is coming back down to earth very quickly. I could see it is at Vandy. I wish I could see what time the kickoff was. I feel like if it were a night game, I would be more inclined to go with it being a trap game. Let me see what time it kicks off.
4 o'clock ET, 3 p.m.
Yeah, no. I think that there's no. I think those stands are going to be by magic. I think Vandy would maybe cover. I think they get a little Nash Vegas magic. I don't think they cover. I think Ole Miss wins by 3 touchdowns. We'll go We'll go 34-10. Ole Miss wins. Yeah, maybe our resident Vandy / Clemson fan had me a little too gassed up, thinking that people actually respected Vanderbilt. That week 0 matchup, they actually got more than 12 people watching their game and talking about them. And I think it just skewed the whole perception of that program. But yeah, I think Ole Miss handles business.
Business is business.
All right. Well, that puts us at 90 minutes. I think we have covered all of our bases. What say you? Give me a 30-second elevator pitch here for Texas A&M football this weekend.
Oh, I have to say positive things about A&M? Oh, God.
I mean, the elevator could be going down. It doesn't have to necessarily be going up.
This elevator right now is a sinking ship until somebody decides that they give a shit. Whether that be Haynes King, whether that be Max Johnson, whether that be Devon A. Chain, whether that be Damani Richardson, who always gives a shit, because God bless him. God bless number 26, who apparently said football is soft because you get ejected for tackling.
Yeah, so, I heard that.
Love that. But yeah, right now we are a sinking ship until someone gives a shit.
That's fair.
And it's not me at this point because I love them and I will watch the game and I will root for them, but I cannot put my mental health on this team anymore.
That's understandable. I feel for you. I really do. I'll be rooting for Texas A&M this weekend for what that's worth. I won't be rooting for Jimbo Fisher. I hope you guys win in spite of him, i.e., you have like 4 defensive touchdowns or something. I want you guys to have like 112 yards of offense, but still win because Jalen Milroe turns the ball over a bunch of times or something cool. For me, I think that Napier finally gets his first SEC win. I fucking hope he does because I can't imagine going 0-3 against the 3 sorry ass programs that we've already either lost to or playing. So that's my speech. I think that we handle business. AR supposedly's gotten the wide receivers and tight ends into a group chat. Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, like, oh, cool. You guys are texting each other now. How innovative.
Why were you not doing that before now? I have
that's been the general comment is like, you guys just figured this out. Like, get WhatsApp. Like,
decided to be friends.
It's like, oh, Anthony Richardson suddenly stopped overthrowing the ball by 14 yards. It's because him and Ricky Pearsall are in a group chat together. It's like, yeah, shut the fuck up. Like that makes no sense. Yeah, that's not how this works. But
run the interception play. That's not how this works.
Yeah. Hey, do the thing where you throw it right to the guy with the wrong color jersey on. Yeah, I'm sure that they would love being exposed to Ducati. I can't imagine Anthony Richardson and Ricky Pearsall lasting more than 20 minutes of Ducati's ramblings.
Yeah, I made it this long.
Yeah, I feel like I was raised and brought up around a bunch of really good shit talking FSU fans. Georgia fans still really haven't impressed me much. They've basically just scoreboarded, and I respect it. That's they've earned that. FSU fans, you really got to start to dig a little bit to get good at it. It's easy when you can just scoreboard. That's easy mode. Hard mode is when your team's lost a bunch of games in a row to that other team, but you're still finding ways to shit talk. And with Florida and FSU, it's always been very cyclical, like 5-6 streaks or game streaks. And so you can't just quit because, I mean, it's your cousin, it's your uncle. I'm sure you understand it with Texas, Even when you lose, you can't lose. Even if you lose, you're still better than them because of reasons.
Honestly, it's the overall record. that gets me every time. Whenever they are losing an argument, it's, well, we own the overall record. And you're like, oh, so you lost the argument. And they're like, no. Yeah, you had nothing else to say, so you leaned on the overall record, that half of that record. If you take out, before the scholarship limit was a thing, since then it's been pretty even, but okay. Like you enjoy what you need to enjoy. Okay.
Yeah.
We took your ass out of the College World Series, and I'm going to hold on to that for a while.
All right. Speaking of taking your ass out, I need to take my ass out of here. Do you have any parting words for our wonderful viewers or listeners?
Let's see. I've already taken off opening day for baseball season, so it's baseball season in Aggie land. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
You've already moved on to baseball season.
Is it sad that I've already skipped over basketball? Is that mean?
Down here in God's country, we root for all of our sports. We're the only team in the country that has a top 5 baseball and softball team. Probably have a top 25 basketball team. Hopefully
I haven't paid attention.
Yeah, that's understandable. We're the defending national championships in track and field. We just need to get this football thing sorted out, and then we can be back to being a hashtag everything school.
Oh God, it's Kate all over again.
I mean, it's true. It's true. Hashtag everything school.
That's gonna be the title of this podcast.
Hashtag everything school, or it's Kate all over again.
Week 6, hashtag everything school.
We've officially moved off of football onto our other sports.
Like, we're done. On that note, I think we are done.
We are. I gotta go tuck in the little one. You have a good night. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching or listening.
Good night.